Hi everyone, my name is Sumeda, and in this video I'm gonna talk about why I don't teach English anymore. Maybe you've watched my previous videos about how to be an English teacher in Mexico, so this is kind of an update on that video. I'm not only gonna talk about why I don't teach English in Mexico anymore, but just in general, because that's what I did. And for your info, I'm still a teacher, but now I just teach my native language, which is Dutch. And I still love teaching Dutch, but English, well, for various reasons, which I'm gonna tell you now, it just didn't work out as well for me. Okay, well, I'm gonna start about English in general, why I quit teaching English. Well, I realized that with English, there are so many native speakers. You have Australian teachers, people from the UK or from the United States. Those are a lot of people who are able to teach you English. It's a very spoken language in a lot of places. So there are two problems here. First, of course, there's a lot of competition because English is not just a language from a small country like my country, the Netherlands, where you have a lack of teachers. There are a lot of people who are teaching English, a lot of people who are traveling, and people who are willing to do it at a very low rate. So that's one of the reasons why I felt that it was kind of impossible to grow as much in your career, because there are always going to be a lot of teachers who are willing to work for a very low rate. And also English teachers are just not valued that much, I would say. I even at some point worked for a company in the Netherlands where I was teaching teenagers, kind of like tutoring. And even there, like the rate at which I was paid, which was an okay salary for the Netherlands, I would definitely not complain. It was about 18 euros per hour, and then I also got paid for the administrative stuff. So definitely not bad, but still compared to teaching my own native language, which I also did at a freelance basis, it paid me much more, like about 30 euros at that point, while I was teaching English for 18 euros. And I did try with that company that I was teaching for to communicate with them and ask for a raise, but they have told me that they could only maybe raise my salary like 2 euros in a whole year, and then after that also kind of just 2 euros each year. So I would never ever, even in my own country where the salaries are quite great, get to a point of earning as much as I teach as when I teach Dutch. So, I would say I did love teaching English. It's more fun, I would say, to teach another language, and there's a lot more people who need English tutoring than Dutch. So I did love that, maybe slightly more than teaching Dutch. But eventually it's a job, so why would I waste my time working for less when I could earn more if I put more energy into another area? And honestly, I've grown to love teaching my own native language. I didn't always find it something that I necessarily wanted to do, but once I started doing it, I just got to know a lot of amazing students who are very motivated. There are a lot more adults as well who are willing to learn my native language. Whereas with English, a lot of times I had to teach small children or teenagers. I would say salary was a huge part of the decision, and just not really being able to grow that much. And also just not getting as much opportunities. The one job that I got tutoring for kids in my own country was quite great. That company got me a lot of students. But besides that, in the general market, I would say Preply, Italki, kind of that stuff, it was always very difficult for me to get students who wanted to teach English, even though my profile was promoting me as an English teacher. A lot of people usually came to me for Dutch, so I wouldn't get a lot of students. And I think a huge part of that is also because I'm not a native speaker of English. I would argue that my English is quite good, probably a C1 or C2 level even. But of course, a lot of people just prefer to teach from a native teacher, which makes sense. Um, so yeah, that's also why I felt like probably I wasn't using my skills in the best way that I could. I mean, it's still useful that I speak English at such a high level. With my current job, like teaching Dutch, I still use English every day, basically. So that's definitely not wasted, and definitely also the knowledge of the language is definitely not wasted. It's very useful. But yeah, that's kind of the second reason. If you're not a native speaker, it's even more difficult to get clients. So I eventually realized that and kind of gave up on it, I guess. I don't really feel like I missed out on anything, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I've never really second guessed this decision to just stop teaching English. And honestly, if I wanted to, like, I could always come back to it. Another thing, well, a lot of those tutoring websites, like Preply, italki, the commissions were not really great. I mean, in the end, I wasn't really using them anyways, but it's kind of an annoying place to start. If you're just wondering if you should teach, well, this is probably most likely the way that you're gonna start with italki or Preply, and those commissions, they just suck. Honestly, they suck. Like, why do you have to take 10% of what I earn? Doesn't make sense. So that was another frustration, not really why I quit, but yeah, sadly it's a part of the whole thing. Now, why I quit teaching English in Mexico. Well, I've talked about my experience of getting a job in Mexico. You can watch it on my profile. It definitely was not easy to get that job. And once I got a job that promised me to get me the visa to work in Mexico for a year, my company really showed me that they didn't give a shit about me as an employer. Like, they just didn't notify me. I basically had to beg them to even go up to the office to apply for a visa for me, and then they just didn't inform me, even on the dates where I literally had to go to the consulate. They just didn't prepare me at all. Like, I didn't know which documents to take, and I basically found out once I was there about all that kind of stuff. Maybe I could have been more active in the process, but sadly I wasn't, and I found out the hard way. And even worse was that apparently you have to pay about like 600 euros to even pay to get that visa for 1 year in Mexico, which is kind of a silly thing to do if you are a European who can just come on a tourist visa to Mexico anytime you'd like. So that also kind of resulted in me not finding it worth it to do that. My company had not told me about that price that you had to pay at all, and once I asked them about it, they also told me that they would not pay that for me, which is crazy. Like, I'm coming to your country to work for you, you should probably pay that. At least a lot of other schools, from what I've heard, they did pay that fee for their teachers. Just mine wouldn't want to do that. So also kind of the reason why I felt like they didn't value me a lot. And at that point, I was in Colombia. I did my whole process here in Colombia, and I kind of just realized, well, I could also just stay in Colombia. In Colombia, there are a lot of more easier ways to get like a digital nomad visa. You can get 2 years here on basically your job, like a remote job that's from outside of Colombia, which is what I have. So that kind of results in me to think like, well, I might as well just stay in Colombia instead of that. Also much nicer, since I could just work with my own salary. I wouldn't have to work for a job who, for my standards, pays me very, very little. This was another thing. My company didn't tell me that the minimum wage in Mexico rised since I got my job the last year. So at the embassy, they told me they had to do a whole research, because apparently the price that I told them that they would pay me for the classes was under the minimum wage, which they didn't tell me about. So yeah, that was also another frustration. But apart from that, any rate that a school in Mexico could possibly pay me compared to what I would earn online doing the same work, literally, would always be way too low. And of course, that's part I should have thought of earlier. But you know, when I came to Mexico, I just really wanted to live there. I would have done any job, really. So I didn't really think about that. But later on, it did kind of occur to me like, okay, I would give a lot of my time and I would not be able to have a very nice lifestyle with it, even though it's definitely like demanding work, I would say, teaching like a whole group of people. So yeah, just at the beginning of the journey, I was a lot more optimistic. Like, I just didn't think about like the financial stuff that much. I just wanted to live in Mexico, and I also thought it was just very nice to be able to provide like some type of value to Mexico. I think a lot of people would benefit a lot from teaching, like learning English. That's definitely a skill that can take you to a lot of places, especially in Mexico where not everyone speaks English. And besides that, I do speak Spanish as well at a very high level. I would say probably much better than a lot of people who come to teach English in Mexico. So I did find that I could help a lot of people with that, which was just like my first intention, why I wanted to teach anyways to begin with. But eventually you kind of start to realize that you are a person as well, and you need to have a job that's going to give you a comfortable lifestyle. And probably for me, a comfortable lifestyle would be probably viewed as a very luxurious lifestyle for a lot of people who are here from Latin America. But yeah, it's just, we compare things to our own circumstances. I have my standards from my own country. Everything is relative. I tend to compare myself to people at home instead of the people around me here in Mexico, because it's just where I'm from. And eventually I just realized like I cannot do this local lifestyle of basically working for just €4 an hour and barely getting by while teaching. In my opinion, is like a job that should pay really well. Like, people get degrees for this. Like, people go to university to be able to teach. You got to do a lot of things if you want to land such a position. So in my opinion, it should pay a lot more. And even in my country, I would say it's not valued as much. Luckily, with teaching Dutch, it definitely is for now. So I'm very happy that I got that, and I will definitely continue doing that. But English, for me, it's just a waste of time. That's what it became, sadly. Yeah, I guess that was everything. If you have any questions about anything, please leave a comment. I will definitely answer. And see you soon. Bye.